Hello, hello, hello. It is that time again. I am your host, Shaun Keiran. This is the Comics to Movies and More show. We go live each Sunday night at 10 p.m. If you haven't, please hit that notify button, smash that subscribe button as well, and that notify bell. I'll get that right in a sec. And we'll notify you each time we go live. We're going to be talking about Evil Dead 2. And we have two amazing guests on the show tonight. So Stephen, unfortunately, has some family commitments. So for once, it's him that's not going to be here rather than me. But we've got two amazing guests. They've got a Kickstarter up at the moment, which we'll talk about soon. But I'm super excited. I'm going to bring them straight out and get into everything. We've got lots to unpack, lots to talk about tonight. So I'm super excited to have our awesome Keiran Jack from Half Tone Podcast and Half Tone Productions again, and the artist with the mostest, Logan French, who's been on the show before as well. So excited to have both you guys. How are you both going?
Yeah, thanks for having us back on, Shaun. It's great to be back after. I know it's been a year since I was last on the show. Logan, I know you've been on before as well.
I think the last time I was on was the first Amphibian Noir.
And there's been two.
It's been 2 years.
So
there you go.
It's been 2 years, has it?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Jeez. Yeah. Okay.
Time flying.
I need to get back onto a little bit of a regular schedule, and two, have you guys on much more. So, but the good thing about that, and we're talking a little bit off air, is in regards to how busy you both have been. So it's actually, Logan, we're going to talk about the project that you're working with and what's on your t-shirt a little bit later. But you're already onto the second issue of Amphibian Noir. And is there anything else that you've been working on between that and the project with Keiran as well?
No, I've literally just come straight off the back of Amphibian Noir 2 and straight onto this project. So no breaks for me. That was self-inflicted, though. I went to Keiran saying, "Come on, let's do something." That was my fault. Getting straight back into it, but that's fine. I'm loving it. I'm not a fan of having that break. I can't have that break. If I have that break, it'll last for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Tell them the truth though. Like, what were you working on before you jumped onto Lady the Swamp?
No, I'm doing it at the same time. Sorry.
You're working on number 3.
Yeah. So I'm working on that at the same time as Lady the Swamp. But that's
your own. So that doesn't really count, does it, Logan?
Well, it's to keep me balanced.
Yes.
You know how you get tired of a job or a particular topic, and you kind of got to jump off it for a day or something, and then switch back over to get the blood pumping again. And that's how I'm doing it. I'm switching backwards and forwards between the two. So at least I don't have to stress about writing.
No,
work on that one.
But that's what I love. I think for me, we talked about last week redoing XCT and relaunching that next year, and it's been about 18 months since we've done a new XCT book. But I feel for myself, it was great to have that break. I think I've been so focused on that for so long that, like, to have these other projects pop up and work on, it was for me great to kind of take that step back, enjoy something else, and now diving back into it, like, I'm like super excited. Like, I'm getting the whole book's done, so I'm really excited because I've had it there for a little bit. Just we're waiting on colors, so I'm super excited to be able to showcase that with people as well. And Keiran, you've got 4 ongoing kind of titles yourself?
Yeah. Now 5. 5. Well, 5. Yeah, Talking Bread's still happening. In Purgatory, I've actually got the next 2 issues in the can. And then we've got 2 more issues after that, so that'll be 10 altogether. And then we've got Lay the Swamp, and we've got the new series Tales of Purgatory. Tales of the Underrealm, sorry, it's a spin-off from In Purgatory. And I've just started working on a new project with Camillo. So that's going to be next year.
Oh, really?
So we're racing against the clock there, but yeah, it's more to be announced after the new year. But yes, so.
If people don't know who Camillo is an awesome Australian artist. He's done a lot of work for IDW on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. He's done a lot of different variant covers and everything like that. He was literally in the States after I was and won a sketch off against some really talented artists and everything. So not to say anything against you, Logan, but he's
big leagues.
Yeah. So that's a first that's really a first. The ink's still drying on the contract, so we're going ahead with that, and that's going to be happening later next year. So it doesn't stop.
I just can't tagging him in this video just in case. And
he'll be like, what's going on? So like 6 or 7 projects happening at once. It's nothing out of the usual.
No. We better say hello to the chat. So we've got Moira all the way from Edinburgh. How you going?
Hey, Moira.
Grace, who is in Singapore. Hey, Grace. And Jackie is from Sydney, but I'm guessing you're
Jackie.
in Adelaide still, Jackie, or are you have you flown back to Sydney? So do tell.
Yeah, I saw all his posts today at Supernova.
Yeah, I know. Crazy. It's after a lot of people asked, and I'll do a real quick story before we get into everything. People were asking if I was going back to Adelaide this year, and my response was fuck no. And the whole reason behind that was I went last year when they had the massive storm. There was a blackout while we were at the convention. So we literally did almost 3 hours in the dark using our torches. I always like to stay near the showgrounds there, which is all good, except because it was blacked out. The Airbnb I was at was blacked out. So I literally had no power, no heating, no cooling, no ability to cook anything. My phone was dying, so I couldn't even order Uber Eats. Can't charge your phone or anything like that. It was like the worst experience in my life. So I said, I'll tell you what, I love you, Adelaide, but I will go visit, but I'm not doing another show there for some time until I've kind of gotten over that. So yeah.
Yeah, right. That's it definitely will sound like a bit of a chaotic Supernova from what I heard last year.
He's landed for the podcast. Thank you very much. And Adelaide Nova was boring. Yeah. And we've got Paulo from Brazil. How you going? Wow, we're going all over the world today.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. That's super exciting. But before we get into your project, you, Kieran, you always like to pick the movie that we talk about. Going. So tonight you picked The Evil Dead. So I've got a nice image up here of Evil Dead 2. So not 1, Evil Dead 2. Now I'm going to go last this time around. So I will let you start because you picked the movie. What do you think of Evil Dead 2?
For me, it was really the stepping stone into horror. That cover as a kid, where the skull with the eyeballs, it was an absolute draw card for me. So in a video store, picking up the VHS and taking that home and watching it for the first time, and I mean, the horror and the comedy balance is just phenomenal. I'd never seen anything like it before, and I think that even today, like watching it, it still holds up as a great film. Now, looking at it from watching the first one, I mean, it really is. It's a sequel, but it's almost a redo. And I think that falls into the category of where they kind of had to go back and redo some of the things they couldn't do with the first one, money and all that jazz involved with it. But my God, like, it is a camp horror film at the best times. And the way they carry themselves and the way they did things, real like DIY stuff for the practicality of a lot of the scenes and the slapstick of it. Just I could ooze on about it all day, really.
Okay, Logan, but before he oozes anymore, have you watched Evil Dead 2? I'm hoping Kieran told you that that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So if he hasn't,
he did give me the heads up, and oddly enough, I was just watching it with my daughter the other night, so it was her first experience watching it.
And how old is she? 4?
17. 17. She's only just starting to get into horror movies at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll take it back and we'll watch all the classics. We did Nightmare on Elm Street and then Evil Dead 2. And she's like, oh, Nightmare on Elm Street was a bit boring.
Oh, wow.
I know. And look, I tell you what, it's one of those movies that I loved as a kid, and it scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And when I say a kid, I was like 10 when I watched Nightmare on Elm Street. The Evil Dead 2,
different times.
Yeah, that's right. And when I watched Evil Dead 2, I was 14, 12 to 14, somewhere around there. It's a long time ago. And it blew my mind. You know, I had no idea that horror could be what it was. Because before this, you know, how many action-based horrors could you actually name? You know, this was a horror film that wasn't primarily about suspense. It wasn't primarily about, you know, all the old techniques that they used to use. It was breaking the boundaries of what horror was back then with all the new techniques that people have been using for television and movies and all that other stuff. So it was, you know, I think it blew a lot of people's minds because it was so different to everything else that was floating around at the time, and has influenced so much from there onwards. I mean, the first film already influenced a lot of people before that. So you going back and watching Nightmare on Elm Street, there he is sitting on the bed watching the first Evil Dead film.
Used to, yeah.
Yeah. So it's influenced a lot of people over the years. But you know, back when I watched it as a kid, it was one of those ones that locked in. I was just like, no, this is one of those movies I'm going to forever watch and never get tired of. Which I haven't. I've never gotten tired of it. And if anything, I've grown to appreciate it way more now than I used to. For its filmmaking aspects, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it was interesting because I can definitely remember watching Evil Dead, the original, and liked that. And then I can't remember actually watching Evil Dead 2. Like I just feel like I must have missed that along the way and went straight to Army of Darkness. So I literally watched this today for this show, and it's kind of like, for me, the Princess Bride. I thought this was utter trash, shit, crap, woeful. Absolutely the worst thing. I stopped it at the 26-minute mark and went, can I actually watch the rest of this? That's how bad it was. I was just like, and I feel again, like, you know, in my defense, I can't remember, like when I was watching it, I was like, okay, I can't remember any of this. Same with the Princess Bride. I know I hadn't watched that as a kid. So yeah, and I kind of I knew. Here we go. The chat.
I'm just like the comments.
Yeah, blow up in a second. I will put them up. I won't shy away. But I tell you what, I just I didn't feel like it held up. I was just like, the acting was atrocious, absolutely atrocious. The special effects I thought were good for, like, again, the time that it would have been done. But I thought the writing was horrible and the dialogue was shocking, and I don't know. I actually was sitting there going, okay, I can't go onto the show tonight. I know Kieran absolutely loves this. I can't go on and bang the absolute bejeez. I need to find something that I liked about it. And I tell you what I liked. I liked when it was over.
I have a feeling that you may have gone into this film expecting a horror film, right?
Yeah,
100%.
I think it was set too high. It's like, look, I understand 100% where you're coming from. It is very camp. It's wacky at the best of times, but I think it's that nostalgia for what it is. And I'm like, do you like the first one, Sean? So
yes,
you like the first one,
I like the four, but the first one is more horror. It's not
exactly
not comedy.
Yeah.
And then I can remember watching Army of Darkness, so I knew exactly what I was going into there. So I don't know how I missed this one, and I was like, oh, this is how it's changed.
Yeah.
This is how it's gone from that. Because at first, and that's when I stopped at that 26-minute mark. I kind of was like, is this supposed to be horror or is this comedy? And that was where I was kind of getting a little bit confused and everything. And then when I realized, I'm like, oh, okay, it's deliberately supposed to be bad, or not bad, but it's deliberately supposed to be poking fun at itself.
Yes.
Type of thing, like Deborah Joe and then even Bruce's character to a little bit and everything. But yeah, I think that was where my expectations were. Evil Dead Rise. I actually even watched recently as well. I was like expecting that and got something completely different. And yes, with the Princess Bride, Grace, if you haven't seen me go to town on that movie, you have to go back to our YouTube channel and search Princess Bride. I have left it up. I have gotten a few death threats over that video, but I'm not a fan of that film. I don't think it's funny at all. It should be literally, the original tape should just be burnt and never be shown again. That's how bad that is.
So
how crazy this is. Sean, last time I was on, you actually said the same thing. This conversation has been going on for a couple of years, man. Yeah. Okay.
Wow. But to be fair, like it is that humor that part of the reason why I chose it was because I think that, like, for writing horror, which is a new forte for me, really, I haven't written horror before. It was finding that balance of humor, because a lot of the horror movies that I grew up with were a lot of the 80s stuff and early 90s. It really did rely on that balance of building the tension, but also having enough jokes and humor in it to keep the audience relaxed. So when something really bad happens or really shocking happens, it's a jolt almost to the system. And that's what I liked about Evil Dead, was that it was that real humor base, like the part where he's like in the house alone and everything starts moving and he's like doing the dance up and down, and like there was a real humor to it and a real lighthearted energy to it. And then all of a sudden it snaps you back into it when the hand starts attacking him. So I was like, watching it again, and I always watch it for Halloween, was like that entertainment part of like, oh, this is hilarious. But it really does have that, gory, hard edge mutilation of horror that keeps hitting you over and over again when they were killing people like to the point that it was absurd. You know,
And
green blood splattering.
And I finally get now where Groovy came from.
Yeah.
So that's how I knew I hadn't seen it before, because I was like, oh my god, like this is how it's all come about and everything. So so look, in my defense, as I said, I think I would have liked this if I'd watched it younger, and I said the same thing. Oh no, Princess Bride definitely. But I think going in, I had like severely different expectations of what type of film it was going to be like. But I did like the scene where, you know, his beloved has just been killed and everything. She comes back and she's like, it's almost like Jim Henson style in regards to the puppet dancing and her head coming up and everything like that. So I didn't hate it as much as I'm making out. I'm doing it for the views. It was not what I was expecting. So
we've got to remember, it's made on a $3.3 million budget too.
That was made on a $3.3 million budget.
Yeah.
They should have hosed down reused the pig's blood that they were just shooting out every 2 seconds or whatever. So
they had to build that.
And there's a little thing like, how is the hand making noise? How is the hand laughing?
It's possessed. It's possessed.
That's not funny. Give it a mouth.
Don't try to make sense of it. That's the problem.
To give it a mouth. Like, you know, Thing doesn't laugh, and he's cool. You know, like, I don't know.
So, did you like Evil Dead Rises?
The new one?
Yeah, the brand new one that came out this year. Yeah, you enjoyed that one. Okay.
Yeah. So I liked Evil Dead 1, and I liked Evil Dead Rises, which is more of the traditional horror type thing.
Army of Darkness.
But then I've liked, you know, Scream, which is kind of like this one of my ultimate horror movies, where it like pokes fun at itself and all that type of stuff. I don't know. I am not. My sense of humor is not that over the top, silly, funny either. So that's just me. Hence why I didn't think the Princess Bride was great, and I didn't like Men of Tights either. I didn't think that was great. So yeah, just
not a Mel Brooks fan.
I loved Life of Brian. That's like one of my ultimate, and I loved Spaceballs, the Schwartz. Come on, the Schwartz. But just Men of Tights. Yeah, it was not.
It was ridiculous. It was pure ridiculous.
Yeah.
And look, the Evil Dead 2, you know, it's ridiculous because he's a huge fan of the Three Stooges and slapstick comedy. So it just makes sense for him to do such ridiculous things.
Yeah. So I can say I've seen it now, but I probably won't watch it again.
You will. You'll go back to it.
So...
but you got to go back to it with a less expectation.
Nah, I don't think there's Mystery Men, Princess Bride, and now Evil Dead 2 that probably will put down that I'll never watch again in my life.
I haven't gone back and watched Mystery Men again.
Mystery Men. That is the only movie I walked out on at a movie theater.
Wow.
That was just
pretty bad.
I hated that movie so bad. I'm very negative tonight. What's going on? I'm usually the positive one. Stephen usually pulls me in line. So.
No, we love it.
Yeah.
Jump straight in.
What's Grace say? This is exactly why I go to the movies with zero expectations, or maybe I just have no media analysis skills. Either way, it works for me mostly. Yeah, I got to admit, moving forward, like if I really like a movie, I try to watch nothing these days. In saying that, I did watch the trailer for the new Planet of the Apes, and oh my god, it looks amazing. I love that series. Love that series, and I was really wondering how they're going to do it without Andy Serkis. I was like, is it going to have the same feel? Oh, mate. It looks great.
Yeah,
looks phenomenal. So,
Serkis is good, but he's not the only guy that can wear a blue suit.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And this is what I probably should have done. I should have had a few beers first.
Yeah, Moira's got the right idea.
And then I probably would have been, that's hilarious. Yes.
A few drinks. Could have done well.
Yeah, not that we're saying kids you should drink and watch movies. That's not
drink and watch horror movies.
But, so
I won't tell you what I did as a teenager then. I'm trying to watch horror movies.
Yeah, well, it depends if you drink smoke or, whatever.
Well, they're usually the first people to die in horror movies.
And Moira just rubbing it in. Yeah, Andy is a really lovely guy. Yeah, we know you've met absolutely everyone in the world that's famous, Moira. Just rub it in. So, yeah. And Nerds is here. Nerds, you've missed me going off tap, so I'm kind of glad you're gonna have to go back and rewatch it.
That's hilarious. I'm glad I found a movie that sets you off like that, because you've always been very, the movies I've picked in the past have been very well received. Like this is a first, and I'm seeing it for the first time, so it's fantastic for me.
It's interesting because there's not a lot of movies. Like I'm one of those people. Like it has to be really, really bad for me not to make it all the way through. Like I try and finish everything that I watch, and I have watched the end of Mystery Men. I went back and rewatched it. Didn't get any better. When I stopped it at the 26-minute mark, I knew I timed it. I looked at it and went, "It's still an hour and 5 minutes to go," because I'm guessing there's about 10 minutes worth of credits. I'm like, do I invest that much time in this?
You know what? It's funny because I was like when you said, do you want to choose the film? I was like, do I do Evil Dead 1? I'm like, no, Evil Dead 1's been done 100 times. Let's just do Evil Dead 2 because it's a bit more lighthearted, a bit more fun. It's so funny that
you probably should have told me that beforehand, because I was expecting like a redone of Evil Dead 1. But now it totally makes sense, because I can remember watching Army of Darkness going, what is this? Like it's like comedy type thing. I was just like the first two were not like this. This has gone totally off track. And it's like, we haven't watched the second one, Sean. That's probably why.
It's so good. Well, that's made my night.
I've even watched Crow 5. Like, and
I haven't done that.
What?
Like, that's a hard pill to swallow. Well, look, I should have chosen one, but I'm glad I chose two. Latest Swamp is nothing like Evil Dead 2. It's more in line with Evil Dead 1.
Yes.
Too funny. Yeah. Too funny.
What's that? Nerds
I'm never going to hear the end of this now.
So, has anyone watched the Ash versus Evil Dead?
Yeah.
Okay. So is that slapstick as well? Before I go and watch that? Yeah. Okay.
No, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It is, but it's a lot more ferocious.
Yeah.
It is an incredibly violent series. So they lean very heavily into the gore. And the great thing is Campbell's the only one that's goofy. The rest of the cast is playing it pretty straight. So he's kind of like this weird comical character in this world that's essentially been kind of overrun by demons.
It's got
it's a good watch.
It's Xena in it.
Three seasons?
In it.
Yeah.
4 seasons?
Yeah, 3 seasons. Yeah.
Right. All right. I'll give that a go when I've got absolutely nothing else to watch.
I'm not going to hear the end of this now. I swear to God, every time we go to conventions, you'll be like, you may watch that fucking movie.
Nerds, there's like
You're
7
right.
crow movies,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
you
only
know, the last
one.
one's
What?
called City of Angels, Dead Blood Man on the Street that turns a blind eye and goes backwards 4 times. Like,
Man, I'd pay to watch that.
no. God knows why I watched that. I think it was on late one night, and I'm like, oh, The Crow, this is going to be good. Oh, this is really shit. Jeez. Like, so... Like,
You are brutal. You are brutal tonight.
So, yeah. Little to no sleep. This is what happens to Sean. You get aggro Sean. So...
Hey, you're pretty honest. I'll give you that much. You're calling it like you see it.
I tell you what, it's like, I think like when we're first early on in the show, I was like, oh, I don't want to say anything offensive, and then I'm like, I tell you what, it's just my opinion. No one cares about my opinion, but like I feel like I've watched a lot of good movies. I know when it's a bad one, and this one was a bad one. It did. You know, there's certain things, and I guess there is that nostalgia feel where you go back and rewatch and you're like, that holds up pretty well. Like, you know, I love The Last Starfighter, but that has not held up very well in regards to graphics and all and everything like that. Even the acting a little bit and everything. But if anyone's seen The Nightbreed, like that is like one of my favorite. And how that never got a second movie, like it all was teed up for.
You seen the extended cut?
The extended cut? No.
Yeah, there's an extended cut of it as well. It's got like an extra half an hour in it.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that one I will add to my to my list because I love that, and I've rewatched that in like high definition and everything, and it looks beautiful. It's really well done. The acting is really good, and you know the twist at the end I also love as well. Where I think that's what I kind of was expecting this to be like a bit of a story, and there was literally no story.
There's about I think it's about 3 books for The Nightbreed. So there's quite a few. With a nice little role from David Cronenberg at the end there as well. If you didn't know, he plays the Doctor at the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I have to go back and watch it now. Okay, but we're halfway through. So let's talk about something more positive. So you guys have got a Kickstarter going at the moment. It's called Lady in the Swamp. Keiran? Sorry?
Yeah. Lady of the Swamp.
Of the Swamp, sorry.
Of the Swamp, yeah.
Trust me to mess it up. So Keiran, tell us a little bit about the story, how you kind of come up with it, and then how you're kind of working with Logan on this project.
Yeah. So this all came across I'll start again. This came across from a story I heard about a homestead based here in Australia. And it was a story about a woman who went missing who owned the homestead, and she was never found. It happened 60 years ago, and there's a real mystery behind it. So I thought this would make a really great horror story. So I decided to kind of start working on a bit of a story that was based around my love of horror. A lot of films as a 10-year-old going to a video store picking up VHSs, like I mentioned with The Evil Dead. And it kind of just mutated into that. And I just started, story building from there. And then Logan was working on Amphibian Noir 1, and he presented that when we came to the end to go to print. And I was reading through it, and I was looking at his art style. I'm like, this is the art style that I'm kind of visualizing for Lady Swamp. It's rural Australia. It's outback Australia. It's located in Victoria, so it's very green and luscious. But I was like, okay, let's see if we can do this. So I pitched the idea to Logan, and then from there we kind of went full steam ahead. I wrote the story, working on the character development and all that, while Logan started drafting up concepts for characters and he was shooting them through to me. So this story is really an amalgamation of both our love of horror and the horror genre, whether it be in comics, film, or television, and book for that matter as well. So yeah, the latest Swamp itself, it's a hybrid of supernatural and horror. It's based in Australia, so you get that real authentic Australian humor mixed in with the horror genre, and we're known in Australia to have some really great horror films, especially of late. If you've seen Talk to Me, you would know that we've become a really hot property for horror films. So we've really brought all these elements into it to make the story as best as it can be. And we think we've got a really great project here, and something that everyone will be who enjoys horror or enjoys supernatural will be really excited to read.
I love it's a horror story that doesn't involve a shark or a crocodile. It's like, because Australia does those great. Like, if I get one more, the reef or the shark or the great white, I was like, come on, guys. Like,
and it's so weird because Australia has so much mystery behind it, and in the film genre, it's either you got Razorback, you've got the shark films and the crocodile films. I mean, Wolf Creek is probably a popular one, which is more human based. Then you've got the Loved Ones. What else is there? Talk to Me, which has been huge. The Saw films, which originated from Australia. I mean, they kicked off here. The two Aussies that created the first Saw film. There's other stories to tell, and I think that kind of looking around where we live and the stories that haven't been really told, and this is based off a true story, so we're using elements from that to create the story, and that's where it's just all kind of worked in together and the tapestry's been made.
So, you said Logan came to you with this idea. How did you hear about this, Logan? Had you heard about this story and thought it would make a good graphic novel, or?
No, this is his story. He pitched it at me.
Oh, he pitched it.
I pitched it to him. Yeah.
Pitched it at me. So I just jumped on board as soon as Keiran gave it through me the idea of doing something in the horror genre, and I'm just like, that sounds like fun. Sounds like fun, especially if it's going down the vein of where we're heading. It's leaning very heavily into my preferred visual style, I guess, which is heavy colors and dark imagery. So it's I don't know. I'm just happy to jump on board with a horror story, to be honest. I got nothing in me for that sort of genre, since I'm probably more focused in the sci-fi / action area. So jumping on board with something that has actual people and a genre which I'm a huge fan of, it's just going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well,
I'm excited to get.
When Keiran told me you were the artist on it, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I can totally see you doing like horror. I was like, that's awesome, type of thing. So I've loved your artwork, type of thing. Drawing frogs and all that type of stuff. But I was like, oh, translate that into a horror story. I was like, oh, I would be really interested to see what you've come up with. And just flicking through these pages is just. I really like that you do the colors as well is unbelievable, and that I'm like quintessential Australian home, like mid-century home. I was like, I love the attention to detail in regards to like an old homestead style. I live in the Macedon Ranges. Like I could go out tomorrow and take 3 photos of houses a stone throw away that look exactly like this. That's what I've really loved about it. So was your idea always to do something based here in Australia, Keiran, like, with the Talking Bread that was kind of based off some of your own experiences as a baker and everything like that. With this one, was it? Did you think about taking this idea of this lady missing and placing it somewhere else, or did you always go, no, I want to tell it here and all that type of stuff?
I think giving it a bit of separation from the real story is important too, because I guess it respects the people that are involved in it, but it also giving that draw card to this mystery that has happened, and they might go out and research themselves. There are podcasts and there's books being written about it. They can go out and check there. What we're doing is we've got the basis of what happened, and we're creating our own story within that world. And that was about having a bit of respect, because it's an unsolved mystery. There are people that could be still affiliated with them. We didn't want to offend anyone in that process, but we also wanted to have a bit of fun. So I've been out. So the people who own the property, who previously, I think they still own the property, I don't know, it's been a couple of years, but I've been out to the property around the area, looked around the area. The homestead itself, you can see everything online. It's a very fascinating area, because out there in Gippsland, that when it rains, it floods. So the story is that the woman who lived there, she, it flooded, and she had to dredge through the swamp basically to get to the local town. And there's a lot of history there that we kind of take from that, and we bring it into our world that we've created with these characters. We're giving it that 80s and 90s vibe of, well, it's based in, we're setting in the 90s, but it's very much that, school students go on an excursion and all hell breaks loose. And that was the fun about going and kind of reliving our youth through school camps and school excursions, and kind of bringing that flavor into it as well. So it really is a draw card of a lot of Australian history and culture into this story, whether it be from the real story of the Lady of the Swamp, or our own experiences within, going on school camps, and the shenanigans that you get up to in that, and kind of we've brought it all into one big giant story.
That's hilarious, because I went actually to my 25th year school reunion last weekend. Some of the photos I pulled out were we went to Canberra, of all places, for summer camp. And
yes,
well, not summer camp, but for camp, summer camps American. But now what I've done, people, is I've chucked the link to the campaign in the comments. So if you want to go and check it out, they are looking to raise $5,000 in the next 25 days. So they've got a little bit of time to go, but you don't get charged until the campaign hits its goal and the campaign ends. So you can back now, and you got 25 days to do that. Now, Logan, can you talk to us a little bit about the creative grants that you guys have received as well due to the project?
The Match Labs grant. It's a really cool initiative that the Australian Arts Department, I guess, of the local government do each year, where they match the backed amounts of what we receive. So we've got 5,000 on there, and they will meet that 5,000 with another 5,000, therefore doubling the amount that we've made.
Like Oprah in this situation.
Kinda, I guess. But it's not something they do for everyone. They have a small amount that they do each year. So to be involved in it and actually be selected for it is quite exciting, actually, because it's a pretty small crowd of people that get it. So it just means that.
So it means you're an elite company. So.
Well, it's not just us that see the potential behind this.
Yeah,
I feel like we've been given this not just an opportunity to get extra funding, but it feels like that people have seen what we're looking to make and looking at what we're trying to do, and they're justifying that we're doing it. That what we're doing is looked at in a respectable way, I guess.
That's awesome. And I do apologize that I'm jumping off. I got really bad hay fever.
Yep.
But I don't think anyone wants to see me blow my nose on live air. So, but you both said that you've got a love for horror. And Kieran, you've done a few stories already, like horror based type of thing.
Yeah.
So what made you, decide on telling this story out of kind of everything that you've kind of done as a little bit more supernatural in regards to the in purgatory and that type of stuff? How did you settle on this one?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I kind of see the landscape. There's been a lot of horror genre comics come out in the last 5 years, especially, maybe a lot more than that, probably. You've got like Something Is Killing the Children. You've got The Silver Coin, Red Room. And before that, you've got Outcast, Walking Dead, for matter, is a horror, I guess, in a certain sense. And it's become quite a popular genre within the comics community. And I thought, well, there's not many Australian horror stories, so let's try and tap into that. Something that's not usually done, and let's do something that we're out of our familiar zones for doing, because it's the first time I've written horror. So for me, it was a huge challenge to kind of, how do I create a story that keeps people wanting to turn those pages? It's not comedy, it's not a superhero story, it's not a story about the Grim Reaper. This is a horror story. How are we going to build that tension? So that was a huge hurdle for me to overcome, and how to write. And it was about reading those comic books that I probably mentioned before, watching how they do it with the panel transitions, and then kind of building that into my own pedigree and how I create the comic. And it was honestly, it was a lot of fun to kind of challenge myself into writing horror compared to writing The Talking Bread, which is a cartoon style comic book. But it does have roots. I've recently realized that roots within Frankenstein, which is interesting, because I think a lot of my writing comes from the horror world.
Yeah.
It's really funny thinking back on the work that I've done. There's a lot of horror elements within my comic books. So maybe it's always been there, and maybe tapping into it now has just opened the floodgates for me wanting to write more horror.
I look at myself and go, I'm like, oh my God, every single story that I do is like the hero's journey. And I guess even the movies that I like, I notice now are all very similar, like storytelling type of thing. But it's not until you go back and break those things down that you kind of even like realize that. So now we've only got 10 minutes to go, so I want to make sure that people know what they can kind of get. So first off, is Lady of the Swamp a standalone graphic novel? Is it a mini series? Like what is it?
Yeah, it's a standalone story. It's one and done. We've got a story to tell, and we're basically telling it, and that's it. So there'll be no follow-up stories to this. Once it's finished, that's it, without giving away any of the plot details. But yeah, it's a one and done story. We're very proud of the story that we've been working on. So yeah, that's it. That's basically what we're planning to do with this.
Perfect. So the first reward tier there is $15. So how big is the graphic novel going to be?
96 pages of story. So it's
holy Jesus, Logan! Really? 96?
Yep.
And you said yes, or did he not tell you that before you signed on?
When I signed on, it was a different number, but
was it lower?
You'll notice at the top of the campaign there, it says 96 plus pages. So there is going to be a little bit of leeway there, because I might get a little bit creative art-wise, which will add an extra page or two.
And we'll discuss that later on when we go through the awards. Yeah. So the 96 pages, we talked about it, and yes, we agreed upon it.
Yeah. We're all good.
So I mean, it's not $35 is great for a physical copy. Then for 96 pages, that's a decent size graphic novel. That's a nice size graphic novel. It's a nice size story. It's a lot of pages to draw. I don't draw. It's probably not as hard to write 96 pages, but
You try telling him that.
Hey, the writing wouldn't be. Artists wouldn't have a job without the writer.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. They lack ideas, artists, but no. Unless they're tracing off something, Keiran. That's like, they can use a script or they can use images that are already created. So,
True, yeah.
And they're upset about AI. No.
I don't have that problem. Oh wow! Now we're really getting into touchy territory.
Yeah, we don't want to start that rabbit hole.
No, I tell you what, Keiran, Stephen and I touched on that a little bit last week, and that kind of conversation just spiraled real quickly because he was really cool. He was like, well, if you see it from this way, what do you think? And then if you see it from this way, what do you think? And if you see it from this way, what do you think? So being someone that's a consumer, a business owner, and also a creator, there's conflicting ways of which I would use something. But yeah, let's not delve into that. We could I'll have to do a 2-hour special, I think, for that one. So so you've got a variant cover, which I do love that it's very like that old school video library cover, which is cool. Retailer bundle, which is always good for the stores.
Yep.
And guys, if you have not backed Keiran's projects before, he does like some of the best enamel pins that you will see going around. So if you're thinking about one to get, the one with the enamel pin, hand on heart, I can tell you that it's phenomenal. Get that stuff. So
glows in the dark this time.
Foil. That's cool.
So Marco Fontanelli is a phenomenal artist. He's worked on a few projects before, which is Pentagram of Horror and Space Cowboys for Scout Comics. They're his own titles, but he's come on board to do this cover, and he's absolutely knocked out of the park with a black and white variant that we're going to turn into a foil cover, which is going really quickly. And there's only 25 available, so.
Oh, limited. So there you go. You heard it here, guys. There's only 25 available, so if you like it, get in. You got all the covers there, the cover bundle, which is really cool. I always like these ones, sketch rewards that you can get as well. Cover art, which is, that's awesome. So good.
Yep, so that's Logan's cover.
Yeah.
And then there's my cover,
And then
this one, so this is a special one. Logan is working on a milk bar scene. So it's going to be inside a milk bar. So anyone in Australia, the corner store, we call it in Australia. But it's a milk bar, and it's going to be an array of like your classic 90s milk bars with the streets, ice creams and your lolly section, your drinks fridge.
I definitely need to get you get that one and get my my year 7 photograph over to you, Logan, and see me in my short back and sides with the spikes up the top and the hair, the flowing locks at the back, which is
will fit right in
again these days. The kids tell me, but
we've sold 3 of those, so they're going real quickly. I think we've only got 2 left, so they've gone real quickly.
So, Moira, don't beat me to the punch. And then you've got you design your own cover. Oh, that's never seen that one.
Oh, you do yourself
before. So that's
really some guy I know online does it. They do pretty well from what I heard.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So you've got 25 days to back it, and if they get over the $5,000, that's great. But the minimum we're trying to raise here is that $5,000. So we understand that it's hard these days. So any support is greatly appreciated. So
absolutely,
yeah. Now, guys, is there anything else that you would like to say before we wrap up the show?
No.
Or does anyone have any questions in the chat that they would like to ask before we wrap up the show tonight?
Look, I think you've covered it all tonight. Yeah, if you can support it anyway, where it's sharing or backing the campaign, we appreciate it. It all helps, and it's a huge undertaking. This project, one of the biggest ones we've taken on. So, if we are able to get everyone's support, that'd be great. But yeah, thank you very much again for having us on the show and listening to us gabber on about horrible movies and our project.
No. It was great, man. It didn't feel like I wasted an hour and a half of my time at all today. There wasn't 101 other things I could have probably been doing. But anyway, so now I will mention, guys, just myself, if you haven't already, we've got Bloodsmith up on Kickstarter as well at the moment. We are about $1,200 away from hitting our target. So if you haven't checked that out, please check that out as well. We've only got 12 days to go to hit that target of $4,000. So, but thank you so much for coming on, guys. I really appreciate your time. Logan, I promise it won't be 2 years before I get you get you on again. Although the way Karen's probably working, you will probably be 3 years. So
no, it won't be that bad. Won't be that bad. And I promise I won't pick a movie you don't like.
Oh no! That's mate. It's you pick whatever you like.
I can find one for you that you won't like, but
well, now everyone's going to pick like really slapstick comedy ones that like I probably haven't watched for a reason to just stir me up before I come on the show, so get me riled up. So
hilarious.
But I will say I've watched about 3/4 of Blue Eye Samurai on Netflix. Really good. I'm liking it so far. So yeah, so adult animation. Right. So, and if you haven't, like, I've been really getting into Apple Plus lately. Apple doesn't have like a huge amount of stuff on their platform, but what they do have is really high quality. If you haven't watched Foundation, oh my god, that is like one of the best sci-fi shows that like I've watched. At first I was like, I've got no idea what's going on. I need to go back and rewatch this. But it is so good. It's so thought-provoking. I'm a bit of a pessimist type of thing with, you know, some of the stories I tell and the way they tell that in regards to, you know, all empires must fall. It's just a matter of time. Is really an interesting, especially with everything that's going on in the world at the moment. It's a very interesting take on, you know, if we'll ever have like a global economy, like one world type of thing would be interesting. So, and then just off the cuff, if you haven't watched the Beckham limited edition series, that actual limited series, not limited edition, that wasn't too bad either. Watched that with the wife, so that was a little bit more eye-opening, and I didn't realize a lot of stuff about him. And God, was he a good football player? Like, you know, I was never really into soccer, but yeah. So there's just a couple of recommendations. But thank you once again, guys. Have an awesome time, and we will see you next week at 10 p.m.